Okay, welcome back, guys. Today we're going to talk about the Swiss city of Lugano adopting Bitcoin. They made an announcement, I think it was last week, actually. Time flies. They made a really lightning announcement last week, and we were all taken by surprise by it, except for one guy who's been orange pilling them all along, and that's Paolo from Bitfinex and Tether, where he's the CTO there. We're going to have a chat to him about that in just a minute, but I'll just give you a very, very quick overview of what happened through the announcement. As I said, the Swiss city of Lugano announced that they're going to be taking up Bitcoin or encouraging the adoption of Bitcoin as well as other cryptos as well. But our focus today will be on Bitcoin. And one of the planks of their announcement that particularly excited me was taking up, I think there were 200 or so retail or commercial merchants who were also going to take that up. So that's really encouraging. Switzerland has been really quite aggressive in pushing forward on Bitcoin adoption, and one of the other places, I think it's Zug or Zug, I don't know how you pronounce it. They're accepting payments by Bitcoin for taxes. So it's all very encouraging. And to tell us a little bit more about it, we've got Paolo in. I've invited you, Paolo, as a speaker. So if you just accept that, or if you're not seeing that, just request it and I'll enable that.
I think I did. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me all right?
Yes. Thank you very much, Arkai, for having me.
No, thanks for making the time. Really appreciate it. So where should we start this off? I guess, how did this all start? How did you get involved and how did it all start?
So it started a few months ago. First of all, you are completely right. Switzerland have been quite open to crypto and in specific Bitcoin since a few years. So yes, Zug is a canton and a city in the northern side of Switzerland. They have been one of the first, if not the first, city to support Bitcoin payments for taxes. The issue there, although of course that attracted some interest from the crypto community, the issue there is that it's limited to 100,000 Swiss francs. That seems a lot, of course, for personal taxes, but it's not necessarily a lot when it comes to corporate and companies taxes. So a few months ago, I had the opportunity to meet with the administration in Lugano. The city was already experimenting on the blockchain stack. They were forming a consortium of local companies, among which a couple of banks, universities, the biggest Swisscom, that is the biggest telephone company in Switzerland and internet company in Switzerland, and the city itself. And so they created this consortium, all focused on exploring blockchain opportunities. So when I heard that, I was lucky to get into discussions with the administration, and I discovered that the administration was really far ahead on looking at the technology itself, but also exploring how to support Bitcoin. So honestly, it has been quite easy for myself, and it was an easy sell because they were fully ready. I believe that the administration has proven also with the recent events to be extremely forward-looking. One of the most important parts, I believe, that one of the biggest realizations from the city and from all the discussions we had to prepare for the Plan B was actually trying to become the main European hub for Bitcoin, right? So we know that El Salvador is pushing, in South America with the Bitcoin city. Miami is a strong one in North America. Then you have Dubai, that of course is just stated that they are supporting crypto quite heavily, and then you have Singapore. But the reality is that with all the discussions in the European Parliament regarding crypto support, and also, thankfully we had just the news. I saw that you posted as well. that seems like we are here to survive a little bit more, given that the ban on Bitcoin mining in Europe is not happening. But still, there is a lot of uncertainty in Europe, and with the fact that there are many different countries, and there are talks about a unified license for digital assets, but it's not clear yet. It's not clear timelines and so on. Everything make it difficult for Europe to establish itself as the place to, as a clear a clear jurisdiction for crypto. So Switzerland have this huge opportunity, and they realize that they could be the fifth global hub, right? So there will be there will be a limited number of hubs across the world, and actually Switzerland and the city of Lugano could be one of them. But the only way to do so is to embrace Bitcoin fully, right? Not up to a certain extent, not up to 100,000 Swiss francs, but actually either all in or not. And so they realized that they were open to have a plan where in the next months and years, we work together to push for Bitcoin adoption throughout the city. Because it's if an administration of a city says to all its citizens from tomorrow, you can start accepting Bitcoin, you should start accepting Bitcoin.
Hello? Paolo, can you hear me? I think you've dropped out, or have I dropped out? I can't quite tell.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Yeah.
I can hear you now,
so
yeah.
Basically, the city started thinking how they could support actual businesses, right? You are right, there are 200 local businesses that are already supporting and accepting crypto and Bitcoin. But there are more than 17,000 commercial companies here in the Lugano's area that could actually, all of them, support Bitcoin. But the major issue there is how we can help them. Because if you ask like the grocery, a small grocery, a fishmonger, and the small shops to support crypto, that is not that easy for them, right? They don't know where to start. And then they have their different point of sales. They have different accounting softwares. So the big realization that we had was how we can actually create a fund that would make it seamless and cheap or zero cost for all these shops to support Bitcoin and accept Bitcoin payments, because that's the only way to actually orange peel the entire city. So if you are a tourist and you come to the city, you want to know that wherever you go, you can pay with Bitcoin. But that is not that easy unless you have the entire territory being ready. And in order to be ready, you cannot pretend that they all pay for it. Private companies like Tether can offer support to show at the global level that if a city starts supporting Bitcoin, the revenue, the growth of the city can be extremely important. Because if you are among the first cities that are supporting Bitcoin, that you are setting Bitcoin payments, and you allow the immense and extremely wealthy crypto industry to have a place where they can fully spend crypto, then if you are one of the first places that allows you to do that, then you can easily double the tourism on a year-to-year basis. You can double your GDP as a city. So we have seen El Salvador doing quite well since the moment they announced Bitcoin as a legal tender. So if you are a city that is nearby Italy and France and Austria and Germany, you are in Switzerland that offer a great deal in terms of security, freedom of speech, freedom of wealth. That is really one of the best places in the world where this can happen. And the administration and ourselves, so Tether, the administration, we realized that, and that's why we created this Plan B.
So I just want to take you back to the city, you said that they were already planning ahead, and I'm really curious to have a look, because when we contrast them, for example, with El Salvador, we compared to the Swiss city of Lugano, you would think their economic situations are vastly different. And so I'm interested in, first of all, what was their motivation in the first instance, and what makes the city of Lugano different, that they were already looking ahead to embrace Bitcoin before you had that conversation with them. So it wasn't so. What I understand, it wasn't so much a matter of having to convince them, as they were already looking to solve certain problems or position themselves in a certain way before those conversations. Is that right?
Well, they were looking more at blockchains in general as a study and research opportunity more than Bitcoin. So the step towards supporting mainly Bitcoin was made together. So the reason why they were already supporting studying the blockchain industry was that Lugano has been historically one of the biggest financial squares in entire Switzerland. So it's the third financial area of Switzerland. It's full of banks, and they understand really well money, put in a simple way. And of course, you cannot ignore such a evolving and important technology like blockchain. And then just with the more recent events, with the example of El Salvador, you are completely right. El Salvador is a different country. Switzerland is a rich country, is on a different level when it comes to well per persona wealth. But still does not mean that Switzerland and the city and the city of Lugano would not extremely benefit from supporting Bitcoin.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm wondering about, obviously, Switzerland has a very rich history and pedigree in banking and financial services. And typically what we've seen is that, what's the word I'm looking for? Legacy financial services players have been quite reluctant to embrace Bitcoin. And I'm wondering, is it the history of privacy and high net wealth banking in Switzerland that made the city a little bit more open to it? I'm just trying to understand, what is it that made them much more receptive to it, whereas other financial centers like London and New York have been much slower in embracing that, and it's been up to sort of the outsiders of the finance industry to go off and start their own companies as such.
So I think that definitely being at the forefront of the financial industry, Switzerland was actually well suited for also looking at Bitcoin as something that is becoming more and more real. We are in 2022. You cannot anymore deny that Bitcoin is something that is here to stay, right? So, and the fact is that Switzerland, I believe that one of the main realizations is that if Switzerland wants to remain the holy grail of finance, then they have to keep renovating themselves. You cannot live on what you have built in the past if the world keeps changing really fast. So that is the realization that I found among the administration, the ability, the understanding of the importance of keep renovating yourself to maintain your edge. Switzerland, actually, the city of Lugano was one of the first cities, if I believe probably the first city in Europe that started to invest heavily in artificial intelligence. So they created a foundation in the early 70s. So to start exploring artificial intelligence, of course, with the machinery that was available at that time, but they have been always a little bit rebels, I would say, in the right way.
More on the innovative, cutting edge of finance, banking, technology. That's really interesting to hear. So earlier you mentioned that the city decided to go all in, and I'm interested in understanding why. So they could buy some, put it on their balance sheet. They could encourage transactions for people to accept it as a monetary good, and or they could do a whole bunch of other things like get into Bitcoin mining as well. And I'm interested in why they've started from a transaction point of view to encourage it as a circulating medium of exchange?
Because again, the point is that you have to capture the the crypto industry. It's a $2 to $3 trillion industry. So if you can capture as a city just a small part of it, where you know that you can bring tourists here that can book an hotel paying with Bitcoin, and they can go to dinner paying with Bitcoin and so on, then it's more likely that you can fidelize tourism, because they all know that in Lugano you can pay with Bitcoin, and we all know that our industry is kind of religious about the possibility of spending with Bitcoin. We have seen in El Salvador how many videos, how much excitement. It drove just the ability to pay at Starbucks or McDonald's with Lightning Network. So imagine this on a scale where you have 17,000 merchants in a quite a small area that can actually all accept Bitcoin. That would create a big wave in Europe, because again, in Europe there is not such place where you can do this. There is El Salvador, maybe Miami is starting to do so, Dubai as well, but the world is quite big, and in Europe you don't have that. So the basically the bet that you could attract a ton of tourists and also companies and startups here just because you would start accepting Bitcoin, both for taxes, all your city services, and your citizens and your commerciants and all the shops would accept Bitcoin. That is actually the big realization. And I can tell you that in the last 2 weeks, I received personally hundreds of emails of companies, and not just small startups, but really big companies that are interested to put their European entities, to relocate the European entities in Lugano. So they are all asking about connections with the city, with the administration, with local financial firms to help them to, maybe open bank accounts, or understand how taxes would work and how crypto taxes would work. And also private people are asking how they can move their family here, and because they are interested to create their own company starting from here, and so on. So with just the announcement, and with everything that we have still planned for the next months, because the challenge is starting now, right, to put in place and actually deliver what has been promised. That's something that we are going to work really hard for. But yet, even just with what we have seen and what the city has demonstrated publicly, there was an enormous interest, much more than what we expected and much more than what the city expected.
That's really interesting, because the way we've often spoken about Bitcoin is, is it a store of value, is it a medium of exchange, and of course it's both. But the assumption has always been that if you lived in a country or jurisdiction that had an unstable currency, you would be more inclined to use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. And if you lived in a jurisdiction with a more stable currency, you would use it much more so as a store of value. But here we've got an example of a nation that's very, very wealthy, historically wealthy and affluent, and the cutting edge of finance as well. So it kind of upends a lot of our assumptions about Bitcoin, where we're starting to see not necessarily, this is not an outsider city as such. It's not a city that's been, or a country that's been underserved by the global financial order as such. It's been a beneficiary of that, and so now we're seeing it embrace Bitcoin on its own terms, and really upending a lot of our assumptions. So that's one of the reasons I really find their announcement fascinating, to see what's going to come of it. But it sounds to me like they're looking from the point of view of developing an entire industry, and that's their focus, is how are we going to position our city for the future, rather than looking at Bitcoin merely as a lifeboat from financial ruin as a result of mismanagement, inflation, currency debasement, all the rest of that. Have I got that right? I mean, have I given a fair summary of what Lugano is doing and what their thinking is.
Yeah, you're completely right in your description. In the end, Bitcoin is for everyone. Is for the poor, for the medium wealth, for the wealthy. Is for everyone, right? So there are, depending on where you live, you can find different ways to use Bitcoin in your own life. And El Salvador has been the door opener for everyone, right? So the president have been extremely forward-looking, and without him, likely we wouldn't. I would imagine that not maybe Lugano would not have happened, or we are seeing Dubai that is following up. But you need always, of course, the place that opened the doors for everyone else. But different needs, and the approach from Switzerland and from the city of Lugano specifically has been kind of faithful to the Swiss history. So thinking ahead about remaining basically the safe place for finance, and that's something that is quite interesting, as you said, because it's different value propositions.
Do they have any plans to buy some?
So they are looking at, and they are discussing on how having Bitcoin on the treasury would look like. But also there is that's one of the reasons why there is also the green mining initiative. So that the output of the mining operations could be kept, at least in part, into a treasury, maybe managed by a foundation that would help with investing in infrastructure that can be electrical energy infrastructure, can be building roads or whatever. But that is another quite important thing. We cannot say that this is the first time we see it, because that is this is what the Vulcano token is about, right? So trying to create a sort of Bitcoin fund that is, or a Bitcoin parachute that will stay safe for 5 years, and then with a part of the funds that will be raised, and another part will be used to build infrastructure that can be the Bitcoin city, that can be a geothermal infrastructure, and so on. So again, seeing what is happening in El Salvador really helped the city, myself, and everyone that worked at this project to craft a similar idea, but based on the necessity of a city. And yeah, the city the city really wanted to find a way to keep its hedge on the financial side. And also after the announcement, personally, and the city, the administration had requests from multiple banks interested to participate and understand how they could help. So it's as I said during the intervention, the public event. This plan B will only work if we are all aligned, if we work all together, and the fact that there is a big fund that will be put at service of the companies that want to help us to make this happen is actually the thing that will increase astronomically the chances that everything will go as expected. Because again, you cannot pretend that all the citizens, everyone will understand or will be able financially to support Bitcoin. It's easier if you basically go to them and say, look, we did an analysis. We are doing a business analysis of all the different accounting system, point of sales, everything that and tax reconciliation system and so on that are used in the city. We actually provide funding to companies that will help these commerciants to link their system or to adapt or their existing systems to accept, like in network payments and so on, so that there is no, in a certain way, there is no excuse to not be part of it, and there are only gains if you are part of it. Because if we are seeing that El Salvador increased 30% of tourism year to year, I mean, you could assume the same here in the center of Europe. And Lugano is a beautiful city. Lugano also, apart from finance, lives on tourism. There is a lake, there are mountains, it's nearby a skiing pistes and locations. So it's the best experiment in a rich country like Switzerland that you can ever try to do.
Well, I think about Switzerland. I think it's of a mountainous country with lots of snow, lots of rivers. And like, what's the situation with the potential for renewable energy, hydroelectricity to power Bitcoin mining? Is there potential there?
Yeah, exactly. That one of the things that we are looking into is hydroelectric energy for powering mining. So Switzerland is definitely a place that really do care about the renewable energies, and also part of the things that we are looking into is how to create a sustainable project, so for which the part of the output of generated by the mining activity is going to be reinvested in either solar or additional hydroelectric facilities. Honestly, for Bitfinex and Tether this is something that we all discuss openly with the city. We want to see more diversification in terms of Bitcoin mining across the globe. I think we in the company, we think that we should not end up in a situation where mining is concentrated again in a couple of different locations or nations. So we are giving deals, we are planning deals with different countries and cities we are working with that will see actually will be extremely profitable from the mining perspective, but there will be an important revenue share with the cities, with the countries, because in the end it's important that there is a huge investment in Bitcoin mining from all the countries. So at least you don't end up in having now US having more than 50% of the mining of the hash power.
And what about, I guess, from the finance point of view? So I'm just using El Salvador as a benchmark to say, they're buying Bitcoin, they're mining Bitcoin, and they're also going to use Bitcoin as a financing option with the Bitcoin bonds. Is that something that Lugano, city of Lugano, is going to consider as well?
So I think that the ability of providing or raising funds directly in Bitcoin is definitely something that should be explored. So we could put everything in the plan, at least in the first phase of the plan. But definitely there is an interest of having local businesses experimenting with getting loans and getting funding directly in Bitcoin. So so that's something that is we are going to look into in the next few months, as soon as the first phase. So having all the different commerciants ready to accept Bitcoin payments.
And so when it comes to industry and accepting it, is the main focus on independent retail, or is the city of Lugano looking at some of the bigger companies that might be better equipped to or have the resources to roll out Bitcoin acceptance? How's that going to work?
Actually, we plan to start from the retails, because first of all, we want there is always that is mainly the similarity with El Salvador, of course, to a different scale, right? But you have the big food chains, for example, the big companies. They have already the resources to do so. So they should be doing it, but we want to focus on the retails because they are the ones that will need funding, and that's why we are setting up those funds, because they have, in this way, they will be able to compete with the giants, and they will not have to pay for any of it. It will be taken care of by these funds that will have startups to connect them to the Bitcoin network.
Yeah, I guess, one of the things that I was looking at from when El Salvador rolled out Bitcoin as legal tender was a lot of these multinational companies that are operating there would have to develop competencies internally in order to be able to comply with the law. And in my expectation was that as a result of that internal competence, that would then work its way around the organization globally, wherever they needed to roll it out. And I wonder whether that might be an opportunity for the city to reach out to Starbucks, who already have that internal competence, or any other global chain or global organization that has a presence in El Salvador and by necessity of law have already developed that internal competence of rolling out Bitcoin as a legal tender or acceptance as a medium of exchange. And they already have an understanding of what the legal implications are, the accounting treatment, and all the rest of that.
Yeah, I definitely that is an option, right? So again, the city wants to start from the small shops because that in order to give them an edge, right? So if you want to bring here a lot of tourists, you want to also have the local shops, the local merchants to benefit, to start benefiting from this new wave of tourism potentially. Um, and of course, then the big chains that they can adjust and adapt as well. So it will likely go in parallel, but you have to start somewhere, and we wanted to start from the smaller retails. But at the same time, we have been, Switzerland is the country of watches and chocolate. So we have been in discussions with one of the biggest watch chains. They were really interested by the announcement, and they were really interested in starting support Bitcoin payments for selling watches.
Wow. We'll all have to go from Lambos to luxury watches. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, that'll be good. Actually, I've been looking into watches. I've not been a watchman most of my life, and I'm just starting to appreciate them. So that might be something to look into, actually. Hey, you've mentioned tourism quite a lot and the potential for attracting foreign investment and the like, but I'm interested in what's happening domestically because, the foundation of any city is its local population that builds the culture, the commerce, and everything else that makes it attractive for people to visit. And so, in adopting Bitcoin or encouraging Bitcoin adoption, what are they going to do for the local population? Is there a plan or program in place for young people, for just everybody, really?
Yeah, this is a really good point. So there are different initiatives. So the first one is creating a hub and a crypto bar. So the city and
Sorry, did you say crypto
yes, a
bar?
crypto bar.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yep, yep.
basically this mainly a Bitcoin bar, of course, but the city is basically finding a place like 2,000 and above square meters of space to create a place similar to WeWork, where startups building Lightning Network-based services and doing research and so on can actually have a place from where to work on directly on the city soil. And as well as part of the Plan B, Tether and a consortium of companies is offering up to 500 scholarships, or actually 500 more scholarships. In Lugano, there are 3 different universities. That is, a really big number if you think about that. Lugano has 60, 70,000 inhabitants. So we plan to bring also fresh blood in the city that is interested to learn how to install a like network node, how to operate it, how to provide services to all the local shops, because you have to grow on directly on the territory also the expertise, and that comes directly from the universities. We want to also to target high schools to explain the magic word of the blockchain and Bitcoin. We want them to learn. We want them to start looking at Bitcoin as a career opportunity, because it's something that if you don't grow this type of expertise locally, you it will be always hard for people to actually understand the technology and keep supporting it for a long period. So you have to start from the ground up. And by the way, that is also the logic that we used, picking a city as the best place to start this process and this plan. Because it's much harder. You mentioned London or New York, but they are much more complex cities, right? So they have, there are million plus inhabitant cities, or 5 million plus inhabitant cities. So the complexity, they have many different, let's say, districts. They have, there are actually many different town halls that you would need to, in a big city, there are many different town halls that are working together, working with the main town hall that you have to synchronize with. So Lugano is a more contained area. So it's the best way for us to actually create a plan with a clear documentation, with clear processes, and test different strategies to bring, to grow the education, to grow the expertise, and to start, to help shops and commerciants to integrate with Bitcoin payments. So is the right size experiment that is not actually an experiment. It's something that is not, for, at least in my opinion, a test even, right? It's something that I'm really sure that it can succeed, given the interest and the energies that so many people, starting from the administration, are putting to this.
So if it's going to become a global hub, or at least a European hub of Bitcoin, I'm assuming it's going to want to attract some businesses, and that won't just be startups. Are there, how are they going to attract Europe's, Coinbase or FTX or a major exchange? How are they going to do that? Or is that not in the plans and they just want to grow organically and see what happens? Because my sort of, when I have a look at the industry right now, the exchanges are the big players. And, if you can get a major exchange in a location like Lugano, that's going to go a long way to boosting the industry and attracting other companies and similarly minded Bitcoin or crypto startups. So I just wonder, is there a plan to attract larger established companies within the ecosystem already?
Well, first of all, let me wipe my tears, because you are not considering Bitfinex and Tether big startups.
Well, I didn't want to overly promote it. We've already got you here, and yeah.
But I think that definitely is one of the main challenges. Truth to be said, we are already getting interest from big companies working in mining, and they want to look into Lugano as their headquarters. Of course, companies of this size are, they are global, right? So they are likely having headquarters across the globe, multiple headquarters. But also we are seeing that, for example, FTX opened really recently, I think before the Plan B announcement, they opened an office in Switzerland. I'm not sure where, but definitely if a city keeps pushing on supporting the technology we are all working for, that is, they are definitely putting themselves and in the first place when it comes to opportunity for education. And we are, as I said, we are receiving a ton of interest from existing companies, well-established companies, and big companies, unicorns. Although seems like in the crypto industry, it's quite easy to get to the stage of unicorn. You get many of these companies that are actually contacting myself and the mayor and the administration already.
That's really good. And of course, Switzerland is comprised of many cantons, and I guess that they will compete with one another. What's the likelihood or the chances of other cities and cantons saying, "Hey, I think we'd like a piece of that. That looks quite good." Has there been any interest, or has there been any interest from the others?
I think that the other cantons are still in the need of realizing what is happening here. Definitely nearby cities are already asking how they can look into what is happening in Lugano. So I believe that this is the best way also to push really the entire Switzerland to move as fast as possible, because in a certain way you put the different cantons in competition. The cantons are already in competition in Switzerland, because of course the better are the taxes. So there are three types of taxes in Switzerland. There is the federal, the one from the canton, and one from the city. So of course, if you are basically the canton that is supporting crypto and the city that is supporting crypto, you are basically putting everyone else in competition for having a piece of it. And Lugano had a huge head start and a lot of funding coming from private companies, among which Tether.
Okay. Well, look, I think that's what I wanted to ask you. Would you be happy to take some questions to see if we've got anyone in the audience who wants to ask a question? We've got Ignacio who's requested.
Sure.
So he's been requesting it from the start. Are you okay with
Yes.
that, Paolo? All right. We'll bring up Ignacio. You've been requesting since the start of the session, so I hope you've got something to say and you haven't just tapped the button accidentally. Ignacio, when you're ready, go ahead with your question or comment to Paolo, please. Okay, just unmute your mic because we can't hear you. All right, I think he's probably gone to sleep. Anybody else have a question or comment? Let's see what we've got. This is Alpha. I've just got you up. This is Alpha, so just unmute your mic and we're ready for you.
Yes, so my question would be regarding banking in Switzerland. My experience is that, for example, Credit Suisse Bank does not work with clients who have proceeds from crypto sales at all. They don't even look at your provenance for the crypto or anything. They just decline to accept deposits that come from crypto money. And my question is to Paolo, whether he knows whether Lugano has banks that do accept those deposits, or whether there's some work planned to solve this problem for crypto businesses. Thanks.
Thank you for the question. This is actually a really good question. It is really at the core of what Lugano is creating. So Lugano is the city itself, the administration, is setting up a task force to help companies and individuals to relocate in here, including also opening bank accounts. So there are already different banks in the area that confirm the possibility of opening bank accounts to people having funds and proceeds coming from the sale of cryptos. So of course there will be a due diligence process, and there will be the request of proof of a source of funds. So for example, coming from an exchange or coming from the sale of a token, whatever. But I personally have had experience in following friends and many friends that were able to open account, not just in Lugano actually, but throughout the entire Switzerland, with proceeds coming from crypto. So I'm really positive, and with the city backing this plan, and with the city really working and talking directly to the banks here, I see many, many of them, the ones that are still resisting, being even more open. And that's part of the discussion I have been having in the last couple of weeks with banks that are interested in growing crypto expertise internally, and also start to understand how crypto compliance works, right? How they can hire someone like they have the chief compliance officer, but how they are interested to hire the crypto chief compliance officer that would start teaching and understanding first learning and then understanding the risk of clients that have money coming from crypto. So I'm pretty positive.
So that's also an issue that we've got. I'm London based, as those of you who've been paying attention will know, but we have similar issues in this city or in this country where most of the banks, a lot of the banks, are quite belligerent towards Bitcoin and crypto in general. They will have arbitrary restrictions. You can make an internet transfer, but you can't do it with your debit card, and sometimes it's difficult to bring money back out of an exchange into your bank account. All sorts of onerous processes and restrictions as well. So I'm hoping that slowly these sorts of concerns subside, particularly as we're seeing, like in America, all of the largest custody banks are now preparing or are prepared to offer custody services of Bitcoin to their institutional clients. And I'm hoping that this sort of attitude pervades throughout banking in the world, and particularly in London, because my experience here, while it hasn't really been too bad, I know other people have basically been debanked simply because, or unbanked, simply because they do deal in Bitcoin. And we know Peter McCormack, for example, in the community, he was just told, no uncertain terms, that's it, we're cutting you off, find another bank. No explanations given. That's it. 6 weeks, you're gone. So I hope this attitude amongst banks changes, and I think a branch of government actually embracing Bitcoin would go a long way towards that. So let's see whether or not that actually eventuates. We got Giacomo. You requested to be up. Have you got a question or comment for Paolo, mate?
Yeah, hi. So it's funny because me and Paolo, I promised Paolo to discuss the situation with him in person, but the only time I found was just harassing him during this Twitter space. So I have two questions. One is more like of a comment. Paolo knows that I will be super interested in this Plan B. I will mostly play the role as the naysayer, maximalist, party pooper. And so my first question is about branding. A comment about this thought. As a guy that in 2014 created a startup blockchain center in Milan, I called it Blockchain Lab. I know that sometimes using fiat-friendly buzzwords like blockchain or crypto is a effective Trojan horse to then make a space for Bitcoin research and Bitcoin development. So I did it myself, and it's smart to a certain point. But I would think that right now, as a branding, probably remaining more focused on Bitcoin than on crypto or blockchain generically is probably best. It's probably better now for two reasons. The first reason is that the crypto city and the crypto valley and the crypto canton and the crypto islands has already been tried a lot in Isle of Man, Malta, Puerto Rico, and Zug. So it's a little bit a tired. The crypto stuff the crypto hub is a little bit as a tired brand, while something new as El Salvador is more Bitcoin-like. So I think that the branding of the initiative, the Plan B with the giant B, is very Bitcoin-centric. That's good. But I will probably suggest Paolo to go even more strict about making it a Bitcoin something and not crypto something. Otherwise, I think it could lose some kind of relevance to other existing stuff like Zoom that, as Paolo explained, are not as interesting. And the second, so this is not really a question. This is more like just a provocation. The real question is this: like yesterday, Wasabi Wallet announced that the place they are right now, so it's Gibraltar. They basically got strong legal advice to start censoring UTXOs from the coordinator of the CoinJoin. So they are probably going to do that, and some other people are firing up anonymous coordinator in order to. So my question would be, Paolo, do you think that the city of Lugano will be willing to protect and welcome a company that will run a CoinJoin coordinator that has been basically kicked off Gibraltar? Or do you think they are not ready yet to enter this kind of can of worms with KYC ML regulators?
So first of all, I want to clarify that the Plan B is the focus is on Bitcoin. So it didn't want to be just a a marketing stunt, but the plan was meant to be and is meant to be Bitcoin. So when it comes to Wasabi, I think that honestly, I don't think the city is ready yet, but it does not mean that it will never be ready. So in a sense that it all comes with education, right? So you cannot go there and knock at the door and say, now you have to fix this really complex and international matter, because as you know, it's all these sanctions and regulations are coming, are pushed by international regulators. So it's a really tricky aspect. So I don't think it's a port that is shutting down, but it's something that, of course, the city might need to review carefully and also discuss with experts in the sector. Giacomo, you are an expert, so I know that how much I love you. So you should be one of the proponents of this thing.
Thank you, Paolo. I will continue harassing you for the foreseeable future.
You can always do that.
But that raises a really interesting point, because there has kind of been, perhaps I'm going to use language that's a little too strong or might offend some Swiss, but an unraveling of the privacy that the Swiss banking industry has been renowned for. And recently, with Switzerland also aligning themselves with the sanctions against Russia, some people say that sort of dilutes its neutral stance, its historic neutral stance. And so, what will be the attitude towards privacy, KYC, and the like with Bitcoin?
So I think that the city has already, the information about its citizens when it comes to payments, right? So also there are clear laws when it comes to payments in Switzerland, both crypto and the startup payments. So I think that part of the effort that the joint venture between different companies, private companies in the crypto sector and the city itself will be also advising each merchant on the necessary steps that they need to take. So I'm not in a good position to comment exactly the level of privacy and scrutiny and so on, but that's one of the things that is for sure one of the things that will need to be cleared and will be discussed to also make sure that the people, before moving here to Lugano, or merchants before adopting Bitcoin, they will know exactly what they need to do.
Okay, we've got Oliver. I've just allowed Oliver. When you're ready, just unmute your mic and go ahead with your question or comment to Paolo, please.
Yeah, hello. Do you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Yeah, I have just quite a simple question, I guess. So you said there's 3 types of taxes in Switzerland. It's the federal, the canton, and the city, right? So
yes, correct.
How would capital gains tax be treated with Bitcoin? How would it be taxed every time you buy a bagel at the bakery, or how would that work?
To my knowledge, there is no tax on crypto. I would say surpluses.
Okay. All right, that was just my question. Thank you.
When you say surpluses, Paolo, you mean like capital gains?
Yes, exactly. Sorry.
Oh, wow. That's
interesting, right?
Yes. That's very interesting. Okay. Do you know some of the details around that, about qualifying criteria and the like?
Well, the city will create a task force to advise everyone that wants to relocate here about all the benefits and so on and so forth. So I think that depending on to my knowledge, the capital gains are not taxed in the crypto capital gains are not taxed in Switzerland. I'm not sure about the normal capital gains, but for crypto, I'm quite sure.
So if you're a trader, for example, and you're deriving an income from Bitcoin, that will be taxed as income tax. But if you're a hodler, then that's considered capital gains, and so that's not taxed. That's my reading of the situation. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. All right. Have we got anybody else? Let me have a look quickly. We'll just take one more question. I know we're just upon the hour, and I want to be respectful of your time as well, Paolo. Let me see. We've got Lars. Lars, I've just added you, so when you get the chance, please unmute your mic and go ahead with your question or comment to Paolo.
I know, Lars.
Go ahead, Lars. Hello, Lars. Just unmute your mic.
Yeah, sorry. So I was saying, for the capital gain, if you're a natural person and you don't do trading as a professional, then it's tax-free, as Paolo was saying. You have just to be a little bit careful that if you trade too much, then the tax authority will consider you as a profession, that you do as a professional activity trading, and then you are taxed over also the capital gain. On the contrary, if you do capital gain with companies, so we have more and more companies now in Switzerland with also all the cryptocurrency in their balance sheets, and if you do some increase in capital because you hold the cryptocurrency, that's are taxed. But they are taxed if you do the capital gain, and you can do a deduction from the taxation if you have a less loss because the value of the crypto is going down.
Lars, you've got a legal background going from your bio. Is that correct? Yes?
Yes, I am a lawyer in Lugano.
Oh, excellent. So I guess perhaps I could take the opportunity to ask you, because there was some confusion around the announcement as to whether it is officially legal tender or not. We noted that it's not, but can you make the distinction for us and what the consequences are to industry or holders or anybody living in Lugano?
Yes. Of course, only the confederation, only the federal authority can declare Bitcoin as a legal tender in Switzerland. What the city of Lugano did is that they declared that the city, the municipality, will accept Bitcoin Tether and the Lugano coin, which is a stable coin issued by the city of Lugano, as a mean of payment. So now I can pay all my taxes to the city, or if I go to the swimming pool, which belong to the city, I can pay the entrance in crypto, or if I go to the municipality bookstore or whatever, I can pay in crypto. But it must be a service given by the municipality. So that's why they say that is a de facto legal tender, because you cannot have legal tender officially, since this is only a federal matter, but the city is recognizing cryptocurrency, is accepting cryptocurrency for all the services the city is doing.
Excellent. That makes it pretty clear to me. And of course, it's not mandated, so nobody's forced to accept it. Is that right?
Correct.
Right.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Well, I think I will take the opportunity to wrap it up there. We've had a good discussion for an hour. Paolo, thank you very much for your time and your explanation of what the city of Lugano is doing. I think it's helped us understand, and really it's very, very exciting to see another place that's really embraced it in a wholehearted way. I look forward to seeing it manifest itself in some progress and some adoption and some use cases as well. I really want to see that. Can't wait to see if they do Bitcoin mining and especially put it on their balance sheet as well. So thanks, Paolo.
Thank you very much, Archive. Thank you very much, everyone, for
Appreciate all the questions and comments, guys. Thank you very much. All right. That's it. Thank you.
Bye-bye.